At 50 degrees below zero, the world stops forgiving mistakes. Metal becomes brittle. Skin cracks like old clay. Even a single breath betrays you, turning into a white cloud that steals warmth the moment it leaves your body. Out here, winter is not weather. It is pressure. It presses against bone, against wood, against thought itself. The forest does not care who you are. It does not negotiate. It only asks one question. Can you adapt, or will you break? In this cold, strength is useless. Speed is useless. Only understanding keeps you alive. And yet, deep within this frozen northern wilderness, there stands a shape that does not retreat. No stone walls, no iron stove, no glass windows glowing with electricity. Nothing we would call modern, just wood, fiber, earth, and people who understood something we have forgotten. This is not the story of a house. It is the story of how humans once taught buildings how to breathe. Step closer, and the world changes. The wind still screams outside, but here it loses its teeth. As you cross the threshold, the cold releases its grip, not all at once, but reluctantly. Darkness greets you first, then fire. Not one flame, but many. Small, steady hearts glowing along the center of the space, each one shared, each one alive. This warmth is not accidental. It is measured, distributed, respected. The air is no longer a gas, but it does not choke. It protects. Above your head, a gray ceiling floats, not a roof of stone, but a living layer of warmth. Below it, the air is clear. Your breath slows. Your body remembers how to rest. Along the walls, families live raised above the frozen ground, wrapped in fur and quiet conversation. No one rushes. No one shouts, because survival here is not a fight. It is a rhythm. Every fire shared, every space shared, every breath part of the same body. This house does not trap heat, it circulates it. It does not isolate people, it binds them. Outside, winter hunts alone. Inside, warmth multiplies. And in this balance between flame and smoke, between people and space, you begin to understand the secret. This shelter was never meant to conquer the cold. It was designed to live with it. Long before winter arrives, survival begins with a choice. Not a choice of strength, but of flexibility. When the people walk into the forest, they do not search for the giants. They pass the ancient oaks, the proud, unbending trees. Instead, they look for the young ones, slender trunks, living wood, because a rigid thing resists, and resistance invites failure. Stone blades strike softly, rhythmically, not to dominate the tree, but to guide it. The wood is cut while it is still alive, warm with sap, willing to move. When the poles are raised, they do not force them into shape. They wait. Hands pull slowly, carefully. Too much pressure, and the wood snaps. Too little, and it refuses to change. But at the perfect moment, the wood listens. It bends, not in defeat, but in cooperation. Bark bindings tighten as they dry, locking curved ribs into place, stronger together than they ever were alone. This is the lesson the house teaches, long before anyone lives inside it. Survival does not belong to the strongest. It belongs to those who understand when to yield, because in a world shaped by storms, only what can bend endures. A skeleton alone cannot survive the storm. Bone needs skin. When spring loosens the forest, the people return, not with haste, but with permission. They do not kill the great trees, they listen to them. From the thick-barked giants, they peel wide sheets of living armor, slowly, carefully, so the tree may continue standing. The bark is heavy, wet, cold against the hands. It smells of rain, of earth, of seasons stacked on top of one another. Laid flat beneath stone, the bark is taught discipline. It dries without curling, without fighting its new purpose. Then the skin is lifted, sheet by sheet, overlapping like scales, starting low, climbing toward the sky. Every seam is placed with intent. Rain will slide away. Snow will never find a door. A second lattice presses the bark tight, wood holding earth, earth holding warmth. This wall does not block the storm, it confuses it. Wind flows around curves it cannot grip. Cold searches for cracks that do not exist. And still, the house must breathe. Above each fire, openings wait, not holes of weakness, but mouths of control. Bark flaps shift with the wind, closing here, opening there, guiding smoke like a river in reverse. Warm air rises. Cold air is kept out. The house inhales. The house exhales. And in this quiet exchange, the storm is reduced from a killer to a whisper. A house can be sealed and still be deadly. Fire gives life, but without control it takes it just as easily. Inside this long house, the people do not trust a single flame. One fire would burn too hot in one place and leave the rest to freeze, so they divide it. Along the center of the house, small hearths appear like glowing hearts, evenly spaced, carefully shared. Each fire belongs to two families, no more, no less. Wood is chosen with memory, dry, seasoned, cut long before winter arrives. It burns slow, hot, clean. But fire creates smoke, and smoke in a closed space should mean death. Here, it means survival. Above every hearth, an opening waits. Not wide, not careless, just enough. When the fire speaks, the smoke rises. Outside, bark flaps listen to the wind. They tilt, they adjust. North wind, close the north, open the south. A silent pull is created, a breath. Smoke leaves, but not all of it, because the roof curves high. The warm gray cloud settles above head height, forming a ceiling you cannot see, but can feel. Below it, the air is clear, safe, warm. Above it, heat is trapped, reflected back down instead of lost to the sky. This smoke is not waste, it is storage. Meat hangs in the haze, slowly curing. Corn dries, beans harden. Food preserved, not by cold, but by warmth and time. Walk through the house, and you move between worlds, cold at the floor, warmth at the body, heat above the head. This is not accident. This is thermal mastery. The people did not fight physics. They invited it inside and gave it rules. And for months, while the forest outside freezes into silence, the fires burn steady, the smoke holds the ceiling, and the house remembers how to stay alive. Cold is patient. It does not rush. It does not attack. It waits at the floor. Even with fire burning, the frozen earth never truly warms. It breathes upward, stealing heat, ankle by ankle. The people understood this, so they did something simple and decisive. They lifted their lives off the ground. Along both walls of the long house, raised wooden platforms stretch from end to end, not furniture, foundations for living. Here, families sleep, sit, work, and rest. Above the slow river of cold air, thick mats woven from husk and fiber soften the wood. Heavy furs seal in warmth. Below the platforms, firewood is stacked, not hidden, but prepared. The nearby heat dries it slowly, baking moisture out of every log, so when it burns, it gives everything it has. Nothing here is accidental. Even the human body is part of the design. A resting body releases warmth. One body, barely noticeable. 100 bodies, powerful. In this shared space, heat multiplies. The house absorbs it, holds it, returns it. Above the platforms, tools and clothing hang within reach. Nothing wasted, nothing distant. Every inch of space works. Efficiency here is not speed, it is closeness. The people do not survive despite living together. They survive because of it. In this house, power does not announce itself. It does not raise its voice. It does not stand apart. It sits, and it listens. While the men move through forest and storm, the longhouse belongs to the women. Not by force, by continuity. Here, lineage flows through mothers. Memory follows blood. And stability follows memory. When a man marries, he does not bring his wife into his home. He steps into hers. He becomes a guest of the fire, a provider, a protector, but never the owner of the walls. At the quiet end of the house, where footsteps slow without instruction, sits the clan mother. She is the oldest. Not because she survived the most winters, but because she remembers them. Her authority is not written, it is practiced. In how food is shared, in how fires are fed, in how disputes end before they spread. In a space where dozens of families live shoulder to shoulder, conflict is inevitable. So the architecture demands cooperation. No private walls, no private flames. If tension rises, it has nowhere to hide. The clan mother settles it, not with punishment, but with balance. And her power reaches beyond the house. It is the women who choose the leaders. And it is the women who can remove them. If a man forgets that leadership is service, his title dissolves. This is not domination. It is design. The longhouse teaches the same lesson to people that it teaches to wood. Rigidity breaks. Balance endures. Here, society does not orbit strength. It orbits care. And because of that, the house holds, not just against winter, but against itself. When winter closes the world, movement ends. Paths disappear. Rivers lock themselves in ice. The forest falls silent, and inside the longhouse, time slows. This is when stories awaken. Firelight dances across bark walls, and shadows begin to move. Not randomly, but with purpose. The elders speak, not to entertain, but to remember. In a world without paper, memory must live in people. Shell by shell, pattern by pattern, the past is carried forward. These are not decorations, they are records, treaties. Wars survived, hunger endured, peace earned. As the wind screams outside, children listen from beneath heavy furs, their faces lit by embers and belief. They hear how nations were once divided, how blood soaked the forest floor, and how peace was chosen, not through conquest but through restraint. The longhouse becomes a school. Every winter night the same stories return, not because they are fragile, but because they are powerful. A child does not hear history once. They hear it every year, from every voice, from every angle. Mistakes are remembered so they are not repeated. Values are repeated so they are never lost. Outside, the storm tries to erase everything. Inside, the people refuse. Here, identity is not inherited silently. It is spoken, heard, shared. And as long as the fire burns and the stories are told, the house holds more than warmth. It holds time itself. There comes a moment in deep winter when the world stops breathing. The wind rises beyond sound. It becomes a whistle, then a scream. Snow falls so thick the forest disappears, trees erased into white noise. This is the storm's true test. Inside the longhouse, the people sleep. but the house does not. In the deepest hours of night, you can hear it speak, not with words, but with movement. Wood groans softly, bindings stretch, then tighten. Bark slides against bark. As the storm slams into the walls, the ribs bend, not away from the wind, but into it. A rigid structure would crack. Stone would split. Heavy timber would surrender. But this house was never built to resist. It was built to respond. It leans, it yields, then it returns. Inside, the fires have settled into deep red embers. The air is still, protected. You hear breathing, slow, rhythmic, 100 lives moving as one. In this moment, the Longhouse is not shelter. It is a body, a living thing holding the line between death and warmth. The cold searches for a way in, at the base of the walls, at the roof openings, but it meets heat rising upward, and the heavy gray ceiling of smoke pressing back. Two forces collide at the skin of bark, and for months, the bark holds. While the storm screams itself empty outside, inside, life continues to breathe. In the quietest part of the Longhouse, where firelight barely reaches, memory is stored. Not on paper, not in ink, but in shell and string. These are the memory belts, woven from purple and white shells, each bead placed with intention, each pattern carrying a sentence. In a world without writing, this is writing. One belt records a treaty, not just who agreed, but how and why. Another remembers famine. Another remembers loss. Another remembers peace. These belts do not decorate the house. They anchor it. When winter seals the forest and travel becomes impossible, the Longhouse becomes an archive. An elder lifts a belt into the firelight. Fingers trace the cool shells, reading history out loud. The past is not silent here. It is spoken, repeated, corrected. If a story drifts, the belt pulls it back. If a memory weakens, the pattern restores it. This is accountability without prisons, law without walls, truth without ink. Children watch closely. They learn that history is not something you own. It is something you carry. And because everyone lives together, no one can forget. The belts are brought out every winter, every year, again and again. So treaties cannot be rewritten, promises cannot be softened, and mistakes cannot be hidden. In this house, memory is not fragile, it is reinforced. And as long as the belts remain unbroken, the people remember who they are and who they must never become. A house can be strong, a system can be perfect, and still it cannot stay forever. The forest speaks long before it breaks. Firewood begins to retreat, not suddenly, but step by step, forcing longer walks into deeper woods. The soil grows tired. Corn rises shorter. Leaves pale earlier than they should. These are not failures, they are messages. The people do not argue with the land, they listen. When the balance shifts, they do not tighten their grip, they loosen it. The decision is quiet. No panic, no blame. The Longhouse is not abandoned, it is released. Strong poles are chosen and carried forward. Memory belts are gathered. Tools follow hands, but the rest is left behind. Old bark returns to earth. Worn ribs sink back into soil. Ash feeds the ground that once fed them. Within a few seasons, the forest closes the wound. Grass rises. Trees reclaim space. Life continues without scar. This is not retreat. It is respect. To live with the land, you must know when to stop asking more from it. The people do not measure success by how long they stay. They measure it by what they leave behind. And because of that, the land remembers them kindly. If you stayed with us until the end, thank you. You didn't just watch a story. You stepped into an older way of understanding the world. This was never just a story about winter, or wood, or a house. It was about respect between people and the land they depended on. If a fire is still burning somewhere tonight, it's because that knowledge hasn't disappeared. It's only been waiting. If this journey meant something to you, share it, because stories that are forgotten don't survive. And now, we'd like to hear from you. What story should we tell next? Should we leave the frozen forests behind and explore how people survived the desert? Or climb into the mountains to learn how life endures where the air grows thin? Tell us in the comments. We're listening. Until then, keep the fire burning.